My best actor husband has always had severe cleanliness obsessions and has never been willing to share food or eat from the same dish with me. Until I watched an episode of a variety show interview, where his first love casually mentioned an old memory. Back then we lived in a basement. Every day we only had one bucket of instant noodles. I ate the noodles. And he drank the soup. On screen. She smiled calmly, as if it were nothing worth dwelling on. Only then did I understand, my husband didn't detest intimacy, he detested being intimate with me. On the night of the reunion festival, a box of mooncakes sat on the table. After a moment of silence, I gently broke one mooncake in half and handed him one side. Raphael, do you want some? Chapter 1. Raphael's gaze fell on the half mooncake in my hand. For just a second, then he looked away. No need, you eat it. His tone was flat, emotionless. Yet his features held a restrained chill. I slowly withdrew my hand, quietly staring at the half mooncake. The overly sweet lotus paste filling slowly oozed out, thick and glossy like amber. What's wrong? Noticing my silence, he raised an eyebrow and asked. Normally, I would have been chattering nonstop by now. I blinked, glanced casually at the packaging, and pretended to be relaxed. Oh, right. The mooncakes were sent by director Evelyn. I heard she even made them herself. Evelyn, this name was like a switch. Raphael froze for a split second. His eyes flickered slightly before quickly settling back into composure. He reached out, took a piece of the mooncake, broke off a small portion, and tasted it with practiced elegance. The flavor isn't bad, he said lightly. I looked at the mooncake in my hands, now split cleanly into two, and felt as though my heart had already shattered the same way. She was your first love, wasn't she? The sudden irritation pushed me to be blunt. I watched that variety show. He seemed momentarily stuck, whether by my words or by the mooncake. His Adam's apple bobbed once, yet his expression remained steady. What first love? We just ate a few meals together back in the early years. I leaned in closer, studying his face. Even though he was 12 years older than me, time had been unusually kind to him. Under the warm orange light, a faint blush crept up behind his ears. Then, like sparks catching fire, both ears turned red. He coughed awkwardly, his tone tinged with forced humor. First love? She's so dark-skinned, how could I possibly be into her? That sentence, in fact, gave him away. Evelyn had recently transitioned into documentary filmmaking. She often traveled across Africa and Latin America, her skin tanned to a deep bronze. He knew that far too well. My husband had just passed 40, like sugarcane left past its season, old, dry, and already chewed through. Chapter 2. I set the mooncake down and wiped my hands, as if I had touched something unclean. Let's go, I said lightly, as though that little test had never happened. It's the mid-autumn reunion night. Don't keep Mom and Dad waiting. The old Morales family residence was laid out for a lavish banquet. Under the crystal chandeliers, everything shimmered with brilliance. Once all the dishes were served, my eyes locked onto the steamed leopard coral grouper. Before marriage, Rafael Morales had long laid down his rules with me. Whether at home or outside, I was never to share food with him. This time, I deliberately went against it. Besides, my parents-in-law had no idea about this little quirk of his. Picking up the communal chopsticks, I carefully removed the most tender piece of fish belly and placed it straight into his bowl. Before he could react, I ladled a spoonful of fragrant fish broth over it. What's the matter? My mother-in-law's gentle gaze moved between the two of us. Celine rarely serves you food. Raphael, aren't you going to try it? He was clearly startled and looked at me in surprise, instinctively lifting his hand as if to change bowls. My father-in-law set his soup spoon down with a crisp clink. What? Your own wife serves you food and you still turn up your nose at it? I immediately curved my eyes into an innocent smile. Dad, it's fine. Maybe Raphael is just more used to drinking Director Evelyn's instant noodle soup. That flavor is rather special. Director Evelyn? Evelyn? My father-in-law's face darkened instantly. You're still in contact with that woman? The Morales family is someone now. After all, she just won an international award. Raphael cut in abruptly, his sharp features visibly tense. She's a well-known director now. So what if she won awards? My mother-in-law gently held my hand and patted it again and again. Can she compare to our Celine? This child is simple-hearted, her whole world is you. Don't you fail her. Faced with his parents' repeated admonitions, Raphael stood straight back like a pine, clearly unwilling to give in. I squeezed my mother-in-law's hand back, my eyes reddening on cue as my voice caught. Mom, don't blame Raphael. If he really feels he can't live with me anymore, I understand. Even if one day I can't call you mom anymore, I'll always treat you as my dearest elder. Nonsense. My parents-in-law spoke almost in unison, both heartbroken and indignant, as they hurried to comfort me. Amid the soft, consoling voices, through my hazy, glistening tears, I saw Raphael silently lift his soup bowl. Hey, so what if you're a best actor, Raphael? Your crying scenes might not even beat a complete amateur like me. Chapter 3. In truth, Raphael understood everything perfectly well. He couldn't do without me, and the Morales family needed me even more. 5 years ago, he had just been crowned Best Actor, and I had just graduated from university. A single marriage certificate bound our fates together. The film that later won him the Grand Slam and deified his career had nearly collapsed midway through production due to a funding cutoff and public opinion scandals. It was my family that poured in massive capital to stabilize the situation. We even leveraged our connections to secure him top-tier luxury brand endorsements, forcibly turning public opinion around. Raphael's parents were moved to tears by this. Raphael was, at his core, a clear-headed man. He knew exactly where the stakes lay. After marriage, even when I was spoiled or occasionally threw little tantrums, he usually let it slide with a smile. Only when it came to sharing food did he never yield. I once thought this was his bottom line, something a wife should respect. I never realized that what he guarded so fiercely wasn't a boundary, but a privilege reserved for someone else. The bright moon in his heart hung high in the sky, while I was left standing in the shadows. After the reunion banquet, he finally softened his stance. Celine. He squatted in front of me, his voice gradually turning gentle. We agreed we wouldn't share food. If you were upset last time because of director Evelyn. He paused, his thick lashes lowering, making him look unexpectedly helpless. There's really nothing between her and me. Next week, how about I take you out to relax? I lifted my chin, just about to reluctantly accept this gesture of reconciliation, when the phone in his pocket suddenly vibrated. Raphael lived a minimalist life. Usually, only calls from his agent would come in at such a time. What's more, he had always answered them openly in front of me. But this time, the moment he glanced at the screen, his eyes darted away, and he instinctively tried to put the phone away. I was faster. I snatched the phone straight from his hand, an unmarked number. I answered it and put it on speaker. Raphael looked like a mute who had swallowed bitter gall, full of suffering he couldn't voice, as his Adam's apple bobbed. Raphael, did you receive the mooncakes? I have a new book launch coming up and need a guest to help hold up the scene. The people around me are all a bunch of uncouth brutes, they just won't do. Could you do me the honor and come help me out? Chapter 4. Both of us kept our breathing light. In the silence, that slightly hoarse female voice pursued relentlessly. Actually, I wrote a bit about our past in the book, just as a kind of remembrance. If you come, it'd be perfect, not convenient. Raphael cut her off sharply and ended the call outright, his brows and eyes lowered, shrouded in gloom. The faint warmth he had just tried to piece together had already vanished without a trace. After a long while, he spoke again. Director Evelyn really is driven, shooting documentaries, carrying the camera herself, learning editing, even handling makeup and lighting on her own. And now she's publishing a book. Looking at the admiration and nostalgia on his face, I let out a cold laugh. Sorry, our household can't accommodate that many people. Caught off guard, Raphael snapped out of his memories at once and laughed awkwardly. Don't be mad, Celine. Look, I rejected her on the spot. Didn't I? As he spoke, he leaned closer, the woody scent surrounding me, as if he wanted to muddle through the way he always had, using familiarity and intimacy. But the moment he came close, I stood up first, looking down at his slightly stunned handsome face. I said, I'm not angry, I just suddenly feel like it's meaningless. The hand he had reached out froze in midair. I'm tired, Raphael. Sleep in the guest room tonight. He hurriedly stood up, clearly flustered. Celine. I didn't turn back. I walked straight into the master bedroom and closed the door behind me, without locking it right away. Leaning against the cold door, I listened with a trace of hope for sounds outside. My heartbeat echoed clearly in the overwhelming silence. I thought Raphael would follow, like he had countless times before, patiently knocking, lowering his voice to coax me, persuading me with words and looks until I softened and opened the door. But this time, he didn't. Footsteps paused briefly outside, then moved toward the guest room. I slid down against the door and sat on the floor, staring at the empty double bed. So even a best actor knows when to walk off set. Chapter 5. I lay on the bed, restless and unsettled. In the past, Raphael would patiently coax me to sleep. Now, the space beside me was empty and cold. Just as I drifted into a light doze, my phone notification suddenly rang. I opened my bleary eyes. What trending topic now? Evelyn's To My First Love book launch, Morales. Best actor. Confirms attendance. I jolted upright, rubbing my eyes in disbelief. I checked again and again. The headline didn't change. Grievance surged in my chest like a spring bursting forth. He had clearly promised me, with his own mouth, that he wouldn't go. So hiding in the guest room was just to avoid me, so he could conveniently accept this invitation? All drowsiness gone, I frowned and tapped into the details, my fingers trembling and turning cold. The new book was being touted as a sincere record of her emotional journey over the years. Evelyn even tried to deflect suspicion with an explanation. My fans are my true lovers. This book is written for them. Yet paparazzi swarmed in, digging up every expired sweet moment from their past. In the comments, fans and passers-by alike were already in an uproar. No one remembered that Raphael had a rarely seen, non-industry wife. Everyone was celebrating the reunion of this former duo. Even more ironic, Raphael, that fossil who hadn't used social media in ages, actually reposted the news for once, even adding, "Congratulations to director Evelyn. Witnessing your journey and achievements has been my great honor." Honestly, if I weren't his wife, I might have started shipping them too. So angry I almost laughed. Me, Celine, was I really that easy to bully in his eyes? At the peak of rage, turning suddenly into resentment, my brow furrowed, and an idea took shape. Chapter 6. When I woke up the next morning, every trending topic had been wiped clean. I ate breakfast quietly, as if nothing turbulent had happened the night before. Raphael came downstairs impeccably dressed, his expression as steady as ever. Only the faint trace of fatigue between his brows betrayed him. He sat across from me as a servant brought over his coffee at just the right moment. He fell silent for a beat, as though choosing his words carefully. "Did you sleep well last night?" His tone was gentle, but cautious. "I was afraid you were already asleep, so I didn't disturb you." So after hiding out all night, this was the excuse he'd come up with. I used to wear my emotions openly on my face. Now Raphael had forced me into complete composure. Chewing my toast, I looked up at him. "Pretty well. The guest room mattress is comfortable, right?" The joints of his fingers stood out as he lifted his coffee cup, but he avoided my gaze. "Of course it's not as good as the master bedroom." I suddenly curved my brows and smiled sweetly, my voice turning soft and clingy. "Last night was my fault, wasn't it? You should come back to the master bedroom." "Husband, I can't sleep properly without you. I even had nightmares." Raphael froze for a moment, surprise flickering in his eyes before melting into relief. He probably thought I'd finally learned to be sensible. That afternoon, he even had his junior assistant deliver a limited edition handbag from the newest season. Over the next few days, I behaved exceptionally well and never once mentioned Evelyn. Raphael visibly relaxed, assuming I knew nothing about the book launch. He even handled related matters at home without deliberately avoiding me, treating them as ordinary work arrangements. What he didn't know was that right under his nose, I had already begun to move. "Mom," I called my mother-in-law, speaking in a sweet, coaxing tone. "Raphael said there's a very important event next week. He insists that you and Dad attend too. He says it'll feel more proper with elders present." After she happily agreed, I called my own parents, my voice turning innocent and spoiled. "Dad, could you help me find the prenuptial agreement and the property notarization documents? Raphael hasn't even touched a mooncake I broke in half for him these past few years. I'm thinking, maybe some things should be clearly divided." A man unwilling to share even a single bite with me. How could he possibly walk through the rest of his life with me? Growing old side by side? Chapter 7. On the day of the book launch, Raphael got up unusually early. He even went for a morning run and workout, something he rarely did. When he came back drenched in sweat, his athletic shirt clung tightly to his body, outlining well-defined muscles. Whether out of guilt or a guilty conscience, he leaned in close, brushing against my ear before kissing my cheek. Lazy kitty. I'm heading to work. When I'm free next month, I'll take you to Altai to watch the stars. I murmured sleepily, as if just waking up. Eyes half closed as I stretched out my arms. Husband. Hug me. What work? Your agent said you're on break these 2 months. Raphael paused briefly, then wrapped me in his arms and explained calmly. A temporary meeting, talking about endorsement deals for the second half of the year. I'll be back soon. I nodded obediently and shrank back under the covers, as if overtaken by drowsiness. The sound of an engine starting came from downstairs. I sprang up instantly, as if guided by some strange intuition. I pulled open the bedside drawer. The wedding ring Raphael usually wore on his ring finger lay quietly on the velvet lining, reflecting a cold, steely glint. After the driver prepared the car, I picked up my parents-in-law. The whole ride was filled with pleasant chatter. My mother-in-law held my hand and sighed with satisfaction. That child Raphael has finally come to his senses. He knows what really matters now. I smiled gently, turning my gaze toward the scenery sliding past outside the window. The Morales family wasn't extravagantly wealthy, but they carried a refined and upright household tradition. My father-in-law had once been a university professor. My mother-in-law had worked her entire life at a cultural center. Traditional values and a sense of aloof integrity were etched into their bones. They had always harbored misgivings about their son entering the entertainment industry. Back then, when Raphael insisted on applying to film school, he nearly severed ties with his family. During those difficult years, Evelyn stayed by his side, writing scripts, running from set to set, sharing hardships and mutual understanding. In his parents' eyes, Evelyn wasn't just the temptress who led their son astray. She was also the symbol of Raphael disgracing the family name and betraying the path laid out for him. Evelyn does have some talent, my father-in-law said suddenly, as if speaking casually, but she's not someone meant for a proper life. Raphael chose you, Celine. Live well together, we haven't treated you unfairly. I nodded obediently, my mind crystal clear. Just then, the car came to a smooth stop in front of the book launch venue. Chapter 8. Inside the launch venue, the atmosphere surged with excitement. The media's long lenses, the audience's shining eyes, all were fixed on the former partners reunited on stage. Even with her skin darkened by the sun, Evelyn now carried an added air of poise. Holding up her new book, she slowly reminisced. This book is more like my personal autobiography. After spending so many years abroad, coming back actually makes me feel a bit homesick and timid. As she spoke, she turned her gaze toward Raphael beside her, meaning glinting in her eyes. An ambiguous tension flowed silently between them. Raphael looked slightly restrained, subconsciously rubbing his left ring finger, only to touch nothing. His eyes dropped to the pale mark left on his finger. He smiled awkwardly. Their exchanged looks seemed almost tangible, as if charged with electricity. During the interaction segment, an excited fan asked loudly, "Director Evelyn, the stories you wrote in the book about you and Best Actor Morales, are they real?" Evelyn raised her brow, exchanged a smile with Raphael, and answered crisply, "They're real. Indeed, they were." I had already read the manuscript through my own channels. Nearly 2/3 of it revolved around Raphael. Rather than an autobiography, it was more like an epic love chronicle of the two of them. Back in their struggling university days, they shared a single bucket of instant noodles, huddling together for warmth in an unheated basement in City A. Afraid he would catch cold, Evelyn repeatedly borrowed hot water from the landlord to wipe him down and keep him warm. After they gained some success, investors pressured Evelyn to drink heavily. Knowing she was physically weak, Raphael blocked drinks for her again and again, drinking until he vomited blood from his stomach. Rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, the two clung to each other after he woke up, crying and swearing never to part in this lifetime. The audience below sighed with emotion, immersed in this mythic love of the past. Suddenly, A fan wearing a mask took the microphone. Director Evelyn, you wrote so many sweet memories, but why didn't you write about the reason you and Best Actor Morales broke up back then? Chapter 9. I didn't know how long my parents-in-law and I had been standing at the entrance. The crowd was packed tight, leaving barely any room to stand. My mother-in-law trembled with anger, relying solely on years of self-discipline to barely maintain her composure. My father-in-law frowned deeply, seeming to age years in an instant, muttering under his breath, "Celine." The launch Raphael mentioned was actually him backing Evelyn? What on earth is he thinking? I lowered my head, my eyes reddening slightly, my voice choking. I don't understand either. He only told me that today. No matter what, I had to bring you both on stage. The sharp question caught the pair off guard, leaving them momentarily speechless. The masked fan refused to let it go. Director Evelyn? Best Actor Morales? May I ask, what was the reason you broke up back then? Rafael Morales's expression darkened. His gaze swept the audience unintentionally. Across the sea of people, our eyes met. But he was certain I was still sleeping in, so he looked away almost immediately. That single glance, however, took on a very different meaning in his parents' eyes. My mother-in-law braced herself against the wall, her voice shaking uncontrollably. That ungrateful bastard, now he dares to provoke us so openly. I forcibly suppressed the smile tugging at my lips, glanced at the message my father had sent me, and felt considerably steadier. I reached out to support my unsteady mother-in-law, secretly pinching my thigh hard. Tears streamed down right on cue. "Mom, please don't be angry. Raphael must have his reasons for doing this." My father-in-law suddenly raised his voice. What reasons could he possibly have? Back then, if it weren't for, we're not unreasonable people. But this kind of entanglement now is simply outrageous. I caught the hint of something unsaid in his words, wiping away my tears. I looked toward the stage, eyes shimmering. Evelyn pressed her temple lightly, looking troubled. Do I really have to answer this question? But the masked fan pressed on relentlessly. You said earlier it was an open QA. What, can't take it and want to back out now? The audience immediately erupted, curiosity and heckling intertwined, gradually merging into a unified chant. Answer the question. Answer the question. Evelyn sighed helplessly, then finally spoke softly. Back then, Raphael and I were forced to separate. Chapter 10. The moment those words fell, the entire venue erupted. Raphael's silence felt more like tacit admission. The masked fan pressed on relentlessly. Then is there still love? Otherwise, why would you still call each other first love? The teasing question struck the audience right in the heart again. People love stories where fallen flowers return to the branch. They forget the simple truth that spilled water cannot be gathered back. Evelyn looked at Raphael, the tender affection in her eyes nearly overflowing. Just as she was about to speak, a furious shout suddenly rang out from the audience. What nonsense are you two putting on? My father-in-law could no longer contain himself. He forced his way through the crowd and strode straight onto the stage, his face livid. Raphael, have you lost your mind? Have you forgotten you're a married man? Instantly, the venue fell dead silent. Even the masked fan who had been shouting earlier melted quietly back into the crowd. All cameras swung abruptly toward this unexpected turn. Raphael's brows knitted as he hurried forward to grab my father-in-law. Dad, why are you? Don't call me Dad, my father-in-law roared, cutting him off. The Morales family doesn't raise sons who stab their own family in the back. Hey, aren't those Morales' parents? And the woman next to them, is that his wife? Whispers spread through the hall like a contagion, following the direction of everyone's gaze. Raphael finally saw my face clearly. His dark eyes flickered, his handsome face turning deathly pale in an instant. Celine, listen to me, I can explain. I shook my head. Tears slid down silently. So this is what you meant by going out to discuss endorsements? I then pulled the wedding ring from my pocket and hurled it hard onto the stage. You won't even wear the ring, am I really that embarrassing to you? With that, I turned and ran, like a wronged little wife who had suffered too much. Raphael immediately tried to chase after me, only to be held back firmly by my father-in-law. If you don't make this clear today, don't even think about leaving. The audience finally snapped out of it. Camera shutters exploded. Gasps thundered through the hall. Evelyn was still forcing a smile, but her eyes darted away, unable to meet my mother-in-law's gaze. Chapter 11. Outside the venue. The autumn wind was biting. I sucked on a lollipop, calm as still water, while transferring money to that fan from earlier. Great questions. I typed, adding an extra zero to the amount. You really know how to hit the key point. The other party was overjoyed, practically overwhelmed with gratitude. Thank you, pretty big sister. I was originally just a career fan of your husband, never expected things to be this low level. What are you planning to do next? I took the lollipop out of my mouth and blinked my still teary eyes. What can I do? A spoiled, rotten cucumber, whoever wants it can take it. Just then, Raphael finally broke free from the layers of obstruction and chased out, but I had already timed it perfectly, slipping into the car and speeding away. He ran a few steps before being completely surrounded by the surging media. Best Actor Morales. Are you having an affair within your marriage? Did director Evelyn know you were married? Not wearing your wedding ring, was that to make it easier to pursue director Evelyn? Outside the car, the flashing lights were blinding. He could only watch as I disappeared farther and farther away. Inside the car, beneath the glittering starlight ceiling, I decisively made a call. Lawyer, bring over my copy of the prenuptial agreement. That night, the trending topics exploded outright. Hashtag Raphael's secret marriage. Hashtag book launch legal wife appears. Hashtag Morales best actor persona collapse. Tag after tag dominated the headlines. Even when Raphael's studio rushed out an emergency statement, it was already too late. More ironically still, 3 minutes earlier, Evelyn had updated her status. Thank you to everyone for your concern. Love is neither right nor wrong, only a matter of timing. Attached was an old photo, the two of them smiling at each other on set when they were young, their gazes visibly charged. I collapsed onto the sofa in my own living room, scrolling through comments while munching on a cucumber. Max kept pawing at my feet, so I broke off half and tossed it to him. Fans were still scrambling to whitewash things. Onlookers were happily eating popcorn. Raphael's endorsement deals began issuing termination notices one after another. My phone suddenly vibrated, Raphael calling. I swiped it away without hesitation and blocked every single way he had to contact me. Chapter 12. 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang. On the security monitor, Raphael's anxious figure appeared. Celine, did you run back to your parents' place? Let's talk. I wrapped my silk robe tighter around myself and unhurriedly opened the door. Max immediately bared his teeth and growled, not even bothering to swallow the cucumber still in his mouth. Raphael stood outside, hair disheveled, clothes rumpled. That was all in the past. I've long since what? I cut him off, itching to smack his head with the cucumber. Long since planned to reminisce about your youth at a book launch? Or long since decided to play me, Celine, for a fool? He tried to squeeze inside, but Max barked even more fiercely. I let out a soft laugh. Even Max eats what I leave behind. What were you pretending to be so high and mighty for back then? Without waiting for his reply, I shut the door. Late at night, I lay in bed, repeatedly rehearsing tomorrow's show in my head. Just as I was about to laugh to myself, my mother-in-law sent a message. Celine, Mom knows you've been wronged. Raphael realizes his mistake now. He's locked himself in his room and won't see anyone. I rolled my eyes and replied, Mom, I understand your good intentions, but earlier today, Dad mentioned something that happened back then. What exactly was it that made you both so opposed to director Evelyn? There was silence for a long time, so long that I was nearly asleep when a shocking block of text finally came through. The next morning, I got up with dark circles under my eyes. Turning on the TV, entertainment news was broadcasting live chaos outside Raphael's studio. Fans who had dropped him held signs reading "Disgraced Artist, Get Out of the Industry" and shouted in protest. Dozens of media outlets had the entrance completely surrounded. Best Actor Morales. How do you explain the investment records leaked last night? Did you divert marital assets to fund director Evelyn's projects without consent? Director Evelyn, did you know these funds came from the joint marital property of you, Raphael, and Celine? On screen, Raphael was escorted away by bodyguards, moving hurriedly, looking utterly disheveled. I opened a can of food for Max, then picked up my phone again. It was time for everyone to find out just how hard it is to placate a spoiled heiress once she's truly angry. Chapter 13. That afternoon, I brought my parents to the Morales family residence. Raphael sat restlessly as my parents-in-law hurried to stand and greet us. The atmosphere stiffened instantly. When Raphael saw the lawyer behind me, his expression froze. "Celine, what is this?" I smiled sweetly and gently placed the prenuptial agreement on the coffee table. "Husband, did you forget about this?" The lawyer stepped forward and spoke. "Mr. Morales, according to Clause 3 of the agreement, if during the marriage one party unilaterally uses joint marital property for personal investments without the other party's consent, the injured party has the right to recover the full amount." Raphael's face darkened. "You investigated me? The public pressure is already enormous. Do you really have to kick me while I'm down?" I tilted my head, leaning against my mother's shoulder, my tone soft and innocent. "I'm just checking where my money went. After all these years you wouldn't even touch the mooncake I broke in half for you. So why were you so generous when it came to investing in Director Evelyn?" Before the words had fully fallen, the front door opened again. Evelyn stood in the entryway, freezing when she saw the room full of people. She burst into tears and rushed over to shield Raphael behind her. "If you have a problem, come at me. Raphael is innocent." Anyone who didn't know better might think everyone present were cruel deities tearing lovers apart, and that only they were star-crossed lovers separated by the Milky Way. Raphael was about to explain, but I spoke first. "Director Evelyn came at just the right time. I was actually wondering, where did the startup funding for wind, sand, and starlight come from?" The lawyer opened the notarized asset file and lightly tapped a line. "It was transferred from Celine's personal account. Would you like to take a look?" "Ms. Evelyn?" Evelyn's face went deathly pale. She instinctively looked at Raphael. Raphael hurried to defend himself. "Celine, I borrowed that money. I paid it back later." "When did you pay it back?" I blinked innocently, flipping through the account records. "Why don't I see it here?" Chapter 14. My mother couldn't hold back anymore and spoke coldly. "Raphael, our family has never treated you poorly. Back then you promised to take good care of Celine, yet now you're using her money to fulfill someone else?" My father cut straight to the point, slamming a stack of documents onto the table. "These are 5 years of your fund transfers. Explain why you've been continuously wiring money to Evelyn." Evelyn acted like a hen protecting her chick, shielding Raphael from the verbal onslaught. "I'll pay it all back. I just ask that you let us be together." "Let you be together?" After a long silence, my mother-in-law spoke angrily. "Our Morales family has such a good daughter-in-law, and we're supposed to throw her away for you? Mom, watch your words." At some point, Raphael had quietly taken Evelyn's hand. Their fingers interlocked, his ring finger still wearing his wedding band. I suppressed the urge to gag, when my usually refined father-in-law suddenly raised his hand. Smack! A loud slap landed on Raphael's cheek, leaving a vivid red handprint. "Do you have any conscience left?" my father-in-law roared. "What kind of bewitching potion did Evelyn feed you?" Raphael didn't dare look at me. He turned his face aside, eyes lowered, like a delicate flower battered by wind and rain. Evelyn almost dropped to her knees. "Uncle Morales, please have mercy. Raphael and I truly love each other." I stood there with my arms crossed, thinking her acting was even better than mine. My parents pushed the prepared divorce agreement in front of Raphael. "Fine, we misjudged you. Sign it. From this day on, you and Celine have nothing to do with each other." Evelyn's eyes lit up as she secretly nudged Raphael. He didn't move. His gaze stayed heavy as it fixed on me. "Celine, is divorce really what you want?" "I don't believe it." I met his eyes and smiled sweetly. "Don't forget to pay back the money." Ex-husband. Chapter 15. At the end of the day, men remain boys until death. Raphael was someone who searched for lost love by carving marks into a drifting boat. He believed Evelyn would always be that spotless moonlight waiting for him in the past. No matter how long it took, he believed Celine, would forever be a delicate little princess. One crook of his finger and I'd come back. But nothing in this world is permanent, and love is the most fleeting of all. That afternoon, Evelyn was practically driven out of the Morales household. Rafael Morales didn't try to stop it, because the secret his mother had suppressed for 20 years finally erupted like a volcano. "You really think she's some kind of saint? Back then, when you drank until your stomach bled, Why did it take so long to get you to the hospital? She was out accompanying investors. Otherwise, how could a penniless student afford to shoot special effects films? She's had so many abortions she can't even have children anymore. One of those investors even mailed their videos to our house to humiliate us. Your father was so angry he had heart palpitations. That disc is still under the coffee table. When you were at your lowest, who helped you? It was Celine and her parents. And now you want a divorce. Have you lost your mind? Evelyn's face drained of color. She tried to shake her head and deny it, only to meet Raphael's bloodshot eyes. Evelyn, you lied to me? You said you were religious, that you couldn't before marriage. She tried to salvage the situation, but I lightly delivered the final blow. She switched to documentaries because she couldn't secure funding domestically anymore. Ex-husband. All she ever wanted was money. Struck again and again. Raphael finally broke down, clawing at his hair. Only then did I notice. Fine lines had crept into the corners of his eyes. Even his once well-maintained face had grown coarse. So it turned out. The man I once saw as a star could still fall back into the dust. Chapter 16. Life moved fast. In the blink of an eye. Even Max was wearing the sweater I'd just knitted for him. Raphael stubbornly refused to sign the papers. Yet when half-mad insisting on fulfilling his promise to take me to Altai, I ignored him, but still removed him from my blacklist. Every day, I sent him messages on the dot. Like a shameless simp. Pay me back. Yes. I'd pulled off a beautiful comeback that day. No matter how the Morales parents pleaded. No matter how Raphael tried to keep me. The moment my parents and I left the Morales residence, we released everything to the public. Trending topics burned on like an unending battlefield. Evelyn's new book sales were abysmal, and industry insiders kept piling on her scandals. She had once bragged that she'd help Raphael repay the money, yet now she'd fled abroad under the pretense of field research. Every brand Raphael endorsed terminated their contracts and demanded compensation. On one side, he had to fill the hole he owed me. On the other, he had to pay massive breach of contract penalties. Even a lofty best actor found himself suddenly strapped for cash. No choice. Raphael. I was never some naive, sweet little fool. What you took from me, you spit back out. What you owed me, you pay back in full. The Morales parents were pitiful. Their life savings were poured into cleaning up after their son. They had thought a respectable, upright family might finally step into high society, only for Raphael to personally sever that path. One icy morning in the 12th lunar month, I was woken by Max scratching at the door. When I opened the gate, Raphael stood outside the courtyard. A layer of snow settled on his shoulders. Even his eyelashes were dusted white. He handed me several documents, his breath fogging his face. The accounts are settled. This is the transfer deed for the last property under my name, and the signed divorce agreement. I flipped through them absent-mindedly, then froze. It was the deed to the Morales family's old house. Are you insane, Raphael? That's your parents. They've moved back to their hometown, he said with a bitter smile. What I owe you has to be repaid. As if on cue, his phone rang. Through the speaker came the faint, tearful voices of his parents. Raphael. Evelyn was photographed in Morocco. She's definitely not there for research or inspiration. She was at a casino, keeping someone company. Chapter 17. Raphael hurriedly hung up. Snowflakes landed on his trembling lashes. His cheeks were flushed red from the cold. I felt nothing but emptiness. We're even now, I said, pushing the deed back into his hands. Ex-husband, you should go. As the servants escorted him out, he suddenly grabbed the iron gate. Celine, I know you hate me, but could you give me one more chance? I looked at his reddened fingertips and said nothing. For some reason, my mind drifted back to the first time we met. The first time he won Best Actor, it had also been a snowy day like this. He'd hugged the trophy and snuck outside my family home, shouting through the window with a flushed face. Celine, my trophy, your glory. Back then, his eyes had been brighter than the snow. When spring came, I took off Max's sweater so he could run around freely. That same day, I received a thick package. On top was a stack of bank transfer receipts, profit shares from all the filming projects Raphael had secretly funded for Evelyn over the years. I didn't even look at them before tossing them aside. Did he really think he could brush me off with charity? Underneath was a dried snow lotus. Pressed at the very bottom was a handwritten note. The stars over Altai are beautiful. It's a pity you weren't there. Signed in bold, flamboyant strokes, Raphael. I casually tossed the Snow Lotus to Max as a toy and went back to reviewing next quarter's group financial reports. Since taking over part of the family business, I'd realized numbers were far more fun than men. News of Raphael's bankruptcy soon spread throughout the entertainment industry. After falling from his Best Actor pedestal, he even sold off his last residence. I heard he rented a small apartment and started taking on acting classes to make a living. When the weather warmed, he began trying to contact me again in all sorts of outdated ways. Sometimes a handwritten letter, sometimes a plush keychain secretly delivered. All things I'd loved when I was young, now I tossed every single one away. The Celine who once would have delighted in such trinkets had long since learned to love herself during those unloved years, quietly growing up. The most ridiculous part? He'd even learned how to cook. Chapter 18. Early summer evenings already carried a hint of heat as I left the office after work. I was fanning myself when I suddenly saw Raphael standing by the roadside. He was holding a thermal container, as if he'd been waiting for quite some time. Compared to before, he looked thinner, worn down by life. "Celine," he said hoarsely as he opened the container. "I made your favorite sweet and sour ribs. I tasted them, the flavor's just right." I caught sight of his fingers, reddened from burns, and could easily imagine how clumsy he must have been in the kitchen. And I remembered how, back then, I'd eagerly served him food only for him to refuse even a bite, saying it upset his stomach. "So ex-husband knows how to cook now?" I said pointedly. "Too bad it doesn't look very appetizing. Besides, I don't eat things of unknown origin." He seemed not to grasp the sarcasm in my words. His gaze dimmed slightly, yet he persisted. "The temperature's perfect, and the taste is really, that's enough." I waved my hand like shooing away flies. "Just like how you never touched food I'd eaten before. I now don't want to share even the smallest thing with you." Raphael's hands trembled faintly around the container, but he still forced himself to speak. "I know you don't trust me, but I've really changed. Please, give me one more chance." I shook my head gently. "If you've truly changed, why are you still unable to let go of the past?" He froze on the spot. I continued calmly. "Stop acting in front of me, whether before or now. I was never the foolish little wife waiting for you to turn back." With that, I turned and left. Getting into the car my driver had brought around and heading home, Raphael remained where he was, staring at the thermal container, lost in thought. The evening breeze stirred the loose strands of hair on his forehead. The former Best Actor, once blazing across the stars, now cast a lonely shadow beneath the streetlight. Overripe sugarcane, chew it, and there's no flavor left. Only pulp. Expired sincerity, lighter than grass. Why bother picking it up again? The car window slowly rolled up, sealing him and the past outside. Cool air from the AC brushed gently against my cheeks, and I closed my eyes in contentment. Time to go home and feed Max.